In 1996, outside El Paso, Texas, a lonely stretch of highway earned the nickname Screamer's Road. Locals claimed they heard wails in the desert wind, especially near a rusting mile marker with no number. But for truck driver James Rooker, it was just another late delivery. That night, James was hauling livestock in a semi when the temperature suddenly dropped. His windshield fogged from the outside despite the 90-degree heat. The radio turned to static, then a deep voice growled, "Stop now." Shaking it off as exhaustion, James kept driving until a figure appeared in the road, a woman in white, barefoot, mouth open as if screaming, but no sound came out. He swerved violently and came to a halt. When he looked back, she was gone. Thinking he imagined it, James stepped out to inspect for damage. That's when he saw hoof prints, not from cattle but cloven, embedded in the asphalt, steaming in the night air. The livestock in his trailer had gone silent. Dead silent. He turned to his truck and froze. The woman was now standing behind his cab, staring at him. Eyes completely black. She opened her mouth and let out a sound so high-pitched it shattered his side mirror. James stumbled, bleeding from one ear, and scrambled into the truck. The engine wouldn't start. From his side mirror, he saw her crawl backward toward the hood. Her limbs moved unnaturally, as if her bones bent the wrong way. The moment she touched the windshield, the truck roared to life. He peeled away, tires screaming, refusing to look in the rearview mirror. James never used that highway again. Years later, in a therapy session for trauma survivors, another driver described the same woman, same road, same scream. Except his tale ended differently. He said she climbed into the cab, and he's been deaf ever since. In the dense woods of northern Maine, nestled between frozen lakes and ancient pines, sat Pine Hollow Lodge, a remote vacation spot mostly forgotten by the outside world. It only opened seasonally, but locals whispered about Cabin 6, the one cabin never rented out twice. When Lily and her boyfriend Zach booked a winter getaway online, they were told only Cabin 6 was available. The clerk's voice on the phone had paused oddly when confirming it, almost like they were reluctant. They arrived during a snowstorm, finding the lodge almost entirely deserted. The key was left for them in a wooden box, no staff in sight. Cabin 6 was old, its fireplace cold, and its walls unusually thin. That night, after unpacking, Lily found a carved message under the bed frame. "Don't look at him." She called Zach in, but when he bent down to see, the lights flickered, and the room turned ice cold. Their breath misted. Outside, the snowstorm intensified, though the sky had been clear moments before. At midnight, the old analog radio they'd brought for music clicked on by itself, playing a strange static hum. Mixed into the static, a whisper, "Cabin 6 is mine." Zach, unnerved, unplugged it, but the hum continued. Then the fireplace lit on its own, and a shape stepped out of the flames. A tall man, faceless, his skin pale blue, almost frozen. His presence sucked all heat from the room. They couldn't move, couldn't scream. The cold man drifted across the floor, stopping inches from Lily, who was paralyzed with fear. Then, without a word, he turned and pointed to the window. Snow had built up outside, but there were footprints. Coming in, not going out. They fled into the storm that night, nearly dying of exposure before reaching the lodge's main office. A ranger found them hours later, hypothermic but alive. When shown their reservation slip, the ranger paled and said, "Cabin 6 burned down 5 years ago. No one stayed there since." But Lily still had the room key in her coat pocket, cold to the touch, dripping with melted ice. When the Bennett family bought their charming century-old farmhouse in rural Virginia, they didn't expect what lurked beneath. The house had character, creaking floorboards, antique doorknobs, and a mysterious crawl space under the kitchen floor. The realtor had warned them not to enter it, citing structural concerns. But curiosity got the better of Tom, the father. One night, he ventured into the cramped, dark space with a flashlight and a crowbar. As he crawled deeper, his light flickered, revealing scratched words etched into the wood beams. "Leave now, or join us." Suddenly, muffled voices echoed, overlapping whispers that sounded like children playing, but twisted, haunting, pleading. Tom froze, heart pounding. A chilling cold seeped into the crawl space. His flashlight went dark. Panicked, he scrambled back, but the exit seemed farther than before. The air thickened, pressing on his chest. When he burst out, gasping for air, the family rushed him to the hospital. Over the next weeks, strange phenomena plagued the Bennetts. Footsteps beneath their feet, disembodied laughter, and whispers repeating their names. At night, faint tapping came from the crawlspace door. When Tom finally forced it open, he found it sealed from the inside with fresh dirt and bones scattered across the floor. They moved out soon after. Years later, another family attempted to renovate the farmhouse. The new owners uncovered a hidden room under the crawlspace containing dozens of old children's toys and dozens of old, faded photographs. One photo showed a group of children with blackened faces, some smiling, others twisted in agony. The house remains abandoned now, but locals say you can still hear the voices from the crawlspace, begging for release. The Hawthorne Hotel in downtown Chicago was famous for its history and luxury, but also for its ghost stories, none more chilling than those surrounding room 217. When business traveler Alex Reynolds checked in late one autumn evening, he was handed a small brass key and warned by the front desk to avoid looking into the room's mirror after midnight. Alex laughed it off as superstition. That first night, he noticed the ornate full-length mirror across from the bed. It was dusty but pristine, reflecting the dim light of the bedside lamp. At exactly midnight, Alex awoke to a chill in the air. In the mirror's reflection, he saw a shadowy figure standing behind him, tall, faceless, and still. When he spun around, the room was empty. Over the next few nights, the mirror showed more than reflections. It flickered and shimmered like a portal. Alex saw fleeting images of past guests, some pleading, others screaming silently. One night, unable to resist, Alex touched the glass. His fingers pressed in, as if the mirror were a thick liquid. Suddenly, he was pulled forward, as if sucked inside. He tumbled through darkness, hearing whispers of forgotten secrets. He awoke hours later on the hotel floor, his clothes torn and face bruised, the mirror cracked. Hotel staff found no evidence of struggle, but they confirmed no other guests stayed in room 217 that week. Alex left immediately, but the mirror remained. Months later, new guests reported strange reflections, faces appearing behind them and cold hands reaching out. No one knows what haunts room 217, but many say the mirror doesn't reflect reality. It traps it. David worked as a long-haul truck driver, crisscrossing the country alone for months at a time. His routes took him down lonely highways where the night felt thick and dangerous. One cold November night, David was driving through a stretch of isolated road near the Appalachian Mountains. Around 2 a.m., his headlights caught the figure of a man standing by the roadside. A man in a long dark coat, face hidden beneath a hood. David slowed and pulled over, thinking the man needed help. The man got in silently, not uttering a word. David tried small talk, but the passenger only stared ahead, unmoving. As miles passed, the temperature inside the cab dropped drastically. The radio began to crackle with static and distorted voices. David felt an oppressive weight on his chest. He glanced over and saw the passenger's face, pale, gaunt, with hollow black eyes staring emptily. David's heart pounded. He tried to stop the truck, but the brakes failed. The man finally spoke, his voice a chilling whisper, "You cannot escape the road." Suddenly, the truck swerved violently, crashing into the guardrail. David blacked out. When he came to, the passenger was gone. David never spoke about what happened. Other drivers report seeing the same silent man, always hitching rides at night, vanishing without a trace. Some say he's a lost soul, doomed to wander, forever seeking company in the endless night. When the Harper family moved into their dream home in suburban Ohio, they never suspected the dark secret lurking below. The house was perfect except for one strange feature, a locked basement door with no key. It was old, heavy, and sealed with rusted chains. Curious, the youngest daughter, Emily, kept asking her parents about it. They always changed the subject. One night, after a fierce storm, the power went out. In the darkness, Emily heard whispering voices coming from the basement. Unable to resist, she crept downstairs, chains rattling softly. Suddenly, the basement door creaked open on its own. Emily peeked inside, but saw only blackness. The whispers grew louder, chanting words she couldn't understand. Then, cold hands gripped her ankles, dragging her into the abyss. Her screams echoed upstairs, but her parents found nothing when they searched. Days later, Emily returned, changed. Her eyes darkened, her voice hollow. She whispered secrets no child should know. The family moved away soon after, but neighbors reported strange lights and chanting from the abandoned house. Some say Emily never really left. In a small town in northern England, there was a toy maker named Elias Harrow, famous for his exquisitely crafted dolls. People traveled miles to buy them, believing the dolls held a special charm, but the truth was far darker. After Elias died mysteriously in his workshop, rumors spread that his spirit haunted the dolls he'd made. Strange incidents began to occur. Children woke screaming, claiming their dolls moved on their own. One family reported hearing laughter echoing through the house. Yet no one was home except their terrified son. The worst story came from the Blackwood family, whose daughter, Clara, inherited a Harrow doll. At night, Clara would talk to the doll, but her voice changed, becoming deeper, sinister. One evening, Clara vanished. Her bedroom was found ransacked, the doll sitting in the center, smiling. Investigators found claw marks on the walls and a trail of doll parts leading into the forest. Clara was never found. Locals say Elias's curse still lingers in those dolls, trapping souls and feeding on fear. Margaret was an antique collector, fascinated by mirrors with history. When she acquired an ornate mirror from a defunct estate sale, she was warned it was cursed, but dismissed the tales as superstition. The mirror hung in her bedroom, reflecting light and shadows. But soon, Margaret noticed odd things. At night, the reflection in the mirror wouldn't mimic her movements perfectly. Sometimes, it lagged, or smiled when she was frowning. One evening, Margaret awoke to find her reflection still asleep while she was awake. Over the next weeks, the reflection began acting independently, mouthing words she couldn't hear. Terrified, Margaret covered the mirror, but the sounds continued, whispers echoing from beneath the glass. One night, she woke to cold hands pulling her toward the mirror. She struggled, but the reflection reached out, trying to drag her in. Friends found her unconscious hours later. The mirror cracked and shattered beside her. Margaret was never the same. Some say the mirror holds the souls of those trapped, forever trapped in a silent, twisted world. On a lonely stretch of highway outside Louisville, Kentucky, drivers report a chilling encounter that's been going on for decades. Mark was driving home late one rainy night when he spotted a young woman standing by the roadside, soaked and shivering. Feeling sorry for her, Mark stopped and offered a ride. She climbed in silently, glancing at him, but never speaking. As they drove, Mark noticed her feet didn't touch the floor. When he reached her destination, a graveyard, he turned to tell her they'd arrived, but she was gone. Confused, Mark checked the back seat, empty. He walked toward the cemetery entrance, where an elderly groundskeeper recognized the woman. "That's Mary," he said quietly. "She died in a car accident on this road 20 years ago." Mark later found out the grave was freshly dug. Locals say Mary's spirit still hitchhikes, seeking a ride home she never reached. Drivers who stop often report the temperature dropping, the radio flickering, and a feeling of overwhelming sadness. In 2002, Emily worked as a late-night operator for a small town's emergency dispatch center. It was a quiet shift until the phone rang at exactly 3:03 a.m. The caller was a woman's voice, trembling, whispering for help, but giving no location. Emily tried to trace the call, but the line went dead. Minutes later, another call came, from the same voice, but now pleading, "Please, don't let him take me." Emily alerted dispatchers to send help, but every time they tried to find the caller, the line went silent. Over the next hour, the calls increased in frequency. The woman's voice became frantic, begging for rescue, describing a shadowy figure approaching her. Suddenly, the call ended with a chilling whisper. "It's here." The dispatchers found no trace of the woman. Days later, Emily discovered an old newspaper clipping tucked into the dispatch center's files. A woman abducted in the same town 20 years earlier, never found. Since then, several operators have reported strange calls at 3:03 a.m. Voices begging for help, then silence. Some say the dispatch center is haunted by the final calls of those lost, trapped between worlds. If you want to watch more horror movies like this, please like and comment on the video. You must subscribe to our channel and keep the bell icon all press. Thank you.